From the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
This is a primetime news bulletin here on Joy News on Multi-TV, also seen in Zurich, Switzerland and across Europe on ABN television. In this edition, Electoral Commission Chair proposes review of no verification, no vote clause ahead of 2016 elections. Chief Executive of Komfanochi Teaching Hospital asked to proceed on leave over his role in the Sueba missing baby saga. Ghana Post officials tell Judgment Day Commission how massive corruption and mismanagement brought the company to its knees. Roads and Highways Minister proposes St. Ferry passengers be charged a token after overloading is blamed for weekend breakdown. And 6-year-old so determined to get an education he crossed to school, giving a wheelchair after his story was aired on Joy News. We'll also bring you business, showbiz, sports and international news. Stay tuned.
News at 8 with Israel Live.
In our very first story, overloading is being blamed for the weekend's breakdown of one of the ferries deployed at Senchi to transport goods and passengers following the closure of the Adomi Bridge. Even though the ferry has since been brought back into service, thousands of passengers were left stranded as a result. Minister of Roads and Highways, Alhaji Aminu Suleimana, has therefore charged operators to ensure only the required number of passengers and vehicles are allowed onto the ferry to avert a disaster. He is meanwhile proposing that operators charge a token for passengers who hitherto have boarded for free.
When Joy News visited the ferry site Monday, both ferries were working, transporting both vehicles and passengers across the Volta Lake. The situation was, however, very different on Sunday night when one of the pontoons broke down at a time. The other was not in service, resulting in unusually heavy vehicular and human traffic at the landing site at Senchi.
You get here and you'll be delayed at Accra the side for a whopping 3 to 4 hours before you can go. Can you imagine a woman with children trying to cross at this point in time?
He was worried about the overloading of the ferries and feared there could be a tragedy if the situation is not checked.
Overloading it above the passenger limit. The pontoon takes only 200 passengers at a time. But what happened yesterday, we had in excess of 500 people that added to the weight, and because the river level had gone down, the ferry went down, and so when it was landing, it hit the dock, the wharf or the quay, and then broke the chain.
Each ferry has a maximum capacity of 200 passengers in addition to 300 tons of cargo. In his briefing of the Minister of Roads and Highways, the technical officer in charge at the landing site, Nelson Asantieni, confirmed the overloading of the ferry and explained how that contributed to the breakdown on Sunday night.
There were holiday makers around. A lot of people were coming to, tour on the ferry. And because of that, and if we load even a little vehicles together with the holiday makers, it makes the boat unable to land.
This is the typical situation at the landing site. Hawkers seeking to sell their wares on the ferry struggle with the passengers they hope to sell to during the journey. Despite pleas from the operators that they desist from the practice, the hawkers still persist. The Roads and Highways Minister was of the opinion a token fare for the passengers will discourage those who don't really need to be on the ferry.
So if we are unable to regulate it, we certainly will have a disaster. So because we are coming with regulations to regulate pedestrians who are just walking into the pontoon. We will issue a ticket so that at any time we can account that there are this number of people. And for the passengers on the vehicles, we don't charge them. But those who just take the light and walking in and to just have fun, we'll have to account for you. In the event that there's something, we know the number of people who are involved. When the passengers come in, the vehicles, the drivers know the number of people they are carrying. So we will soon regulate that.
Elsewhere, the Ghana Highways Authority has completed repair works on the Accra-Tema motorway and opened the entire stretch to traffic. Greater Accra Director of the authority, Collins Donko, confirmed this to Joy News.
Joy News' checks at the Accra-Tema motorway revealed works have been completed and open for use. The usual vehicular traffic associated with the closure was absent. Motorists for more than a week had to endure serious traffic congestion after a gaping hole emerged in a breach on the freeway. The Greater Accra Director at the Ghana Highways Authority told Joy News over the telephone the motorway is now fully open for use.
A group calling itself the Consumer Action Front has dared President John Mahama to come up with a real reason why the country is having to endure another power rationing program. The group says it is not enough to dismiss such failures with mere cliches without taking concrete steps to comprehensively address the supply challenges.
According to the Consumer Action Front, the government and the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission were alerted by the general public and other civil society organizations about the negative effect of increasing utility tariffs due to corruption and maladministration, but refused to listen.
They started by telling us that the ECG was undertaking maintenance. Then they shifted to another reason, claiming that the gas power plant in Abuazi had broken down. Until finally, they now claim that it is the fault of the Nigerian suppliers. The truth is that ECG is not paying VRA for electricity supply to them. This is causing serious damage to the financial health of VRA. If it is really true that in spite of the commitment of the West African Gas Project, the Nigeria government is unilaterally reneging on their obligations, our government should tell us. At that stage, we would like to know what concrete steps are being taken to restore the contract or find alternative sources of gas supply.
According to them, Ghanaians would have patience for the unannounced power outages only if government would be truthful about the real causes of the outages.
These days, there is not even a pattern to the times when electricity will be cut off. It may go on, it may come on for 2 hours and go off an hour later. Is that the reliable and stable power supply that President Mahama promises that we will get if we pay higher utility prices? Fellow citizens and consumers, the question is, where is the reliable and stable power supply in Ghana today? Although the ECG claimed to have a collect rate of about 95% of tariffs from customers, the ECG callously refused to pay VRA and GRICO for power supply to them. The ECG has an arrangement to use a major part of income from tariffs to pay for fat salaries and fat allowances of their management staff. Our investigations have revealed that
the Consumer Action Front aims to be part of a sustainable, authoritative national voice for consumers.
The Media Foundation for West Africa, together with its partners, is appealing to government to make the internet accessible and affordable to all Ghanaians, particularly the rural folks, to enable access to information easily. Officials also tasked government to let the internet play a major role in its information dissemination strategy.
At a lecture on internet freedom, Dr. H.A. Sikanku of the School of Communication Studies at the University of Ghana identified access, affordability and capacity as some of the major challenges with internet penetration in the country and asked government to address it.
Internet also leads to a lot of decentralization of power into the hands of people. You know, people are their own experts and they know more about their communities than you sitting at the center think you know about them. And so if we think that decentralization is a very popular development, is an appropriate mechanism in which to go in terms of our own development practices, you know, I can't imagine of a better medium to do this than to use the internet.
He added that adequate training on internet usage was necessary to make the public demand accountability from public officials. Chief Executive of the Telecoms Chamber, Kweku Sechi Ado, identified the internet as a major development tool and called on government to use it effectively to propagate its policies.
We believe that one of the things that we've got to have in Ghana is for a gradual migration of ministries, departments and agencies and other public institutions to more and more use the internet for the delivery of public services. It will make them more accountable, it will make them more efficient, it will give us better services and make everybody more productive.
Director of Research at the Ministry of Communications, Patricia Simpson, outlined some government intervention to improve internet penetration in the country.
Currently, government is deploying 780 fiber optic backbone infrastructure, stretching from Ho in the Volta region to Boku in the Upper East region, with a link to Tamale through Yendi. This Eastern Corridor fiber optic infrastructure project is aimed at increasing broadband infrastructure and service delivery in selected municipal and district assemblies, including 120 communities along the route.
Officials also tasked government to have functional websites so that information about government policies at the various ministries and state agencies and departments can be made accessible to all.
The board chairman of Ghana Post has revealed how massive corruption and mismanagement have together contributed to the current sorry state of the company. The board chair, who appeared together with the current managing director, says the company has been unable to find its feet after it was made to pay out a 1.845 million Ghana cedis judgment debt awarded Sky Consult, which was contracted to computerize some of its operations.
According to the chairman, John Say, Sky Consult was contracted in 2004 to provide technology to computerize Ghana Post's paper-based money transfer. He, however, says Ghana Post instant money transfer business took a downward turn and ultimately collapsed in 2008 due to what he says was mismanagement coupled with fraud perpetuated by some staff in connivance with Sky Consult. Ghana Post's woes, he says, deepened when the legal team failed to properly contest the suit brought against them by Sky Consult, leading to the award of 1,845 cedis in 2010.
There was complete corruption between the some top management of Ghana Post and Sky Consult. Yeah. And therefore, when we came in, actually, it was a terrible phase when we first took over this appointment. The company that was formed in 2004 started business in 2005, June 2005. Earlier than that, they started collecting dividend in advance. Monies being paid in advance in anticipation of profits. For no work done. For no work done.
The Ghana Post managing director also added several appeals to reverse the court's ruling failed, though they could prove the contract was not abrogated and so not liable.
The platform failed, and what it meant was that if I went to the post office with code number 123, claimed the transaction, it was possible then for another person to go with code 123 and claim same transaction. So it means that for one single transaction, you could get multiple claimants. So the then management pressure was brought to bear on them. It was not that Ghana Post unilaterally decided to abrogate or stop the debt, but the business actually could not continue. Not one single PV of IMT was ever audited by the Ghana Post system.
Meanwhile, the Chief Director of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Leslie Kojo Christian, has apologized to the family of an ex-employee who only got his retirement benefit after he had passed. The late Kofi Doe is said to have retired in 1987, and documents showed he wrote several times to the ministry for his benefits to no avail. It was not until he got Shraj involved in 2005 that his benefit was finally paid.
We also agree that because of the delay, Doe Herbert did not live to enjoy the toil of his labor.
Yes, sir. And I wish to express on behalf of the ministry our deepest regret to that the complainant did not receive his money before he passed on, and we want to apologize to the family.
The 17-year delay in payment shot up the amount from $3,299 to 54,514 cedis, an issue that has characterized many of the judgment debt cases the Commission has heard. The Chief Director told the Commission mechanisms to ensure prompt payment of benefits had been effected to avoid delays and overpayments.
Chairman of the Energy Committee of Parliament says recent petroleum agreements it ratified between government and companies seeking to explore the Tano oil fields are the best for the country. Dr. Kwabena Donko was reacting to criticisms by energy think tank, the Africa Center for Energy Policy. The Parliament failed to do enough due diligence on the agreements.
In both agreements, local participation or indigenous participation has been at the highest. In one of the agreements, a Ghanaian company has 27% equity participation and the other 13.5%. The requirement of the law is that there must be at least 5% indigenous participation other than the corporation. So if you add GNPC's participation with that of Esproco and the indigenous Ghanaian companies, it's substantial.
The chairman of the committee described the accusation as false and baseless, saying Parliament was well within its rights in the ratification of the agreement.
The agreement came before Parliament in February, and it was only ratified after a month. So we couldn't call an agreement that has stayed within the parliamentary system for a month a hasty ratification. What Parliament did was to look at what inures to the benefit of the country. And in the two agreements ratified last Friday, the terms have been the best the country has received so far.
He also said Ghanaians stand to benefit more in terms of job creation.
And I'm very particular about agriculture. 60% of our people earn their living from agriculture, and productivity per hectare is relatively very low because we apply very little fertilizer. And therefore, if we have sufficient quantities of gas, especially associated gas, the gas becomes the feedstock for fertilizer, and that will correct that challenge. It will bring a lot more people out of poverty, and therefore we must intensify exploration.
The Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, accused Parliament of awarding contracts on the exploration of the expanded shallow water Tano block on the blind side of Ghanaians to avoid scrutiny of the contracts. Still in Parliament, the MP for Menchia South, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, in a statement on the floor, called for the need to tackle TB with the necessary seriousness, even though he acknowledged a decline in the prevalence of the disease amongst the working age group. He made a statement in commemoration of the World TB Day, which fell on Monday, March 24.
We're taking a break, after which we'll bring you more news. Stay tuned. The Electoral Commission may just stand down the controversial no verification, no vote standard used during the 2012 elections come 2016. EC Chairman Dr. Farah Jang, at a consultative meeting on voter registration with the various political parties, suggested persons who are unable to be verified by the machines should be allowed to vote, as denying them will be infringing on their rights.
Almost every representative of the various political parties was present at the consultative meeting and were taken through what the CI-72 spells out and the future of voters registration under it and anticipated challenges. Dr. Farijan was of the opinion that persons who could not be verified could be allowed to cast their ballot if they can produce 2 people to vouch for them.
The right of the voter who has gone through the process of getting registered on election day has taken the trouble to go to the station and taken and gone through part of the process only to be there.
The PNC and CPP see wisdom in the proposal.
People around will be able to attest that yes, this person with this ID card whose name has popped up, whose picture has popped up, is the same person. The only unfortunate thing is that the machine is unable to at this time recognize your fingerprint. There could be very many reasons. It could be that you have engaged in some what I call adult tax, that your finger cells are all weak and therefore the machine cannot recognize it. And this is peculiar for our brothers who are in Galamsey, our brothers who are doing hard jobs in the farms and what have you. And
at the first point in time when you are registered and you don't have a birth certificate, you don't have a passport, you don't have the other means of showing or identifying who you are, but there are 2 people who can guarantee that this is Mr. A or Mrs. B, that maybe that is something that should also be applied at the point of voting.
But the NDC and NPP both disagree.
Well, the issues that are at stake do not have to do with fairness at all. It is not an issue of fairness. It is a contest. So you ask yourself, does the denying of people in such circumstances affect the fairness of the elections? And I would say no, because those people who will be denying their vote will not belong to one political party. So when you look at it from that angle, then it is fair to every contesting political party.
I think the chairman himself also stated that we must get to a point where people cannot smuggle themselves and come and vote. In place of, let's say, people who have died. So the best way of resolving that issue is that if you are not verified, and you know the biometrics are unique to each individual. So if you don't have it, you don't have biometric verification, you cannot vote. I think it's a very simple thing. Other countries have been using them without trouble. So why do we have to go through with that?
The CI-72 also binds the EC to make it possible for new voters to get their names into the register all year round, so that Ghanaians after their 18th birthday can walk into an EC registration center and get enrolled. But the NDC would rather the law is reviewed, as it will not favor them.
So that is how come when even the registration centers are open, it takes some doing by the agents of political parties to do house to house, encourage them to walk, to go and register. Even if that poses a challenge, can you imagine the consequences of this continuous registration, where your registration facilities are in the district offices? Then you say whoever comes of age can come to the district office, when nobody is going to pay the lorry fare and all that.
The EC has meanwhile announced there will be a voter exhibition to allow any registered voter to inspect the provisional register, and asked that every registered voter should go and check to ensure their names are in the register. Etonamse, Joy News.
The chief executive of the Komfonochi Teaching Hospital has been asked to proceed on leave over his handling of the missing baby saga at the facility. Minister of Health Sherry Aite announced this at a news conference today to state the ministry's position on the matter following its ultimatum to authorities there to produce some babies who were said to have been stillborn.
At the heart of the saga is Suweba, whose baby is said to have died at birth but whose corpse could not be produced. The incident led to attacks on the hospital staff requiring the intervention of the police in Kumasi. The ministry had given the authorities an ultimatum to produce the corpses of 5 other babies after initial investigations revealed that Suebe's case was just one of several. The Nursing and Midwifery Council and the Medical and Dental Council had also been given 14 days to investigate the matter. But Health Minister Sheriaiti at a news conference indicated she's yet to receive reports from the council.
Medical and Dental Council has appealed to the Honorable Minister to extend the deadline for the final submission of their report. The Medical and Dental Council needs 28 days to conduct investigation. The complaint has been referred to the practitioner as per provisions in the section 44(2)(3)(a) and C of the Act. An emergency penal cases committee meeting has equally been scheduled for March 26, 2014 to conduct the initial inquiry.
She, however, told the news conference the doctor and nurse involved in the case and the Okomfanochi Teaching Hospital chief executive will have to go on leave whilst investigations continue.
There were serious procedural lapses at the Okomfanochi Teaching Hospital. The Ministry of Health has also decided that the chief executive officer of the Okomfanochi Teaching Hospital should take all his accumulated leave with immediate effect. The board is directed to appoint a senior person in management to take over from him and inform the ministry accordingly.
Meanwhile, the ministry has given both councils up to April 15 to submit their report, whilst the officials of the ministry will be meeting with the family and lawyers of Sueba to find an amicable solution to the problem.
The Acting Chief Secretary for Water Resources Commission says protecting and regulating land and water resources for improved water conservation are key in attaining Ghana's Millennium Development Goals. Speaking at the second post-2015 water consultation workshop in Accra, he stressed the need for stakeholders to critically examine areas that will address water-related challenges and which will help the achievement of the MDGs.
Second National Consultation Workshop on the Post-2015 Development Agenda sought to increase awareness and examine the relevance and recommendations presented on the UN paper on dedicated goal for water to Ghana. Ben Ampoma noted that even though Ghana has been internationally recognized for its achievements of 86% of water targets, there are still more to be done to achieve universal access to water and sanitation across the country.
In terms of water supply, you can be looking at it in terms of coverage vis-a-vis whether we are meeting our MDGs. Of course, the coverage is improving, but there's still more to do. The more where there's a problem has to do with sanitation, water-related sanitation, where the coverage, as I understand, is around 13 or 14%. And if you look at where the MDG target is, we haven't achieved much. So we need to do more with respect to that.
He added the 2007 National Water Policy would also be reviewed to improve sustainable use and development of water resources in the country.
Now, every 5 years, ideally, you need to review the policy in terms of emerging issues. And it basically has 3 components. We have the water resource management component, urban water supply component, and then the rural water and small towns supply water component. And if you look at the policy, it was really not given that kind of prominence. So we really need to take it up in terms of how it affects our water resources and, for that matter, our livelihoods. The issues of water governance, institutional capacity development and things like that. We need to actually feature them prominently within the policy.
The workshop brought together stakeholders to deliberate and recommend sustainable development goal and target on water.
President John Mahama has announced the formation of a global consortium charged to eliminate mother-to-child transmission of HIV in Ghana. This, according to the presidency, is part of a larger program aimed at improving maternal, neonatal and child care.
A news release circulated by the presidency says the Ministry of Health will lead a test, treat and track operation to identify all HIV-positive pregnancies in Ghana to enable them meet the diagnostic and therapeutic needs for elimination. The consortium will include experts from Yale University, Ghana Health Service, IBM and the ONE campaign. It will be locally supported by the Ghana AIDS Commission, Christian Health Association of Ghana, the National House of Chiefs and the Rotary Club of Ghana. According to the statement, their mandate is to reduce mother-to-child HIV transmission to less than 5% by 2018. They are expected to streamline existing healthcare resource allocation, increase awareness of the phenomenon and build capacity using ICT infrastructure to be operated by IBM.
Umaru, the 6-year-old from the Tyne district of the Brunei-Hafu region, who's been so determined about getting an education that he crawls to school, no longer has to do so. Courtesy a group of young people in non-profit work, he now has a wheelchair. Yet another good news story. Jojo Kobna has more.
Umaru is full of life. He manages to go around his disability and refuses to be limited. That includes crawling to enjoy education. He needed a wheelchair to make his movement easy, and fortunately, he now has one and is excited. Umaru no longer has to endure crawling for several minutes to get to school. His grandmother Amina is also excited taking him to school.
So now Umaru no longer has to crawl into the future. Now he wheels himself into the future, and thanks to many benevolent hearts that donated to help him.
He did not only get a wheelchair, but learning materials as well. Thanks to a group of young people in non-profit work, Reach Out World Mission.
Most of our members saw the visuals on TV, and we all decided that for this project we wanted to do something to help. So we came all out, put some things together, and that's the result. We came out with something to help the boy. I would like to urge people out there to reach out to people who need help, to help them. So, in our small little way, we can make the world a better place, because that's what we are out there to do.
Umaru's headmaster, Barima Osei Asare, is grateful.
If you remove your sandals and you walk with your feet, your soul, you feel the heat there. You feel some heat there. And he will be crawling with the hands and the legs like that. We're always feeling very, very sad. You see, in a rainy day, at times you see the friends who will help him, carrying him on the back. This time, the friends who will be assisting him, they are free now. They won't carry him again.
This is Umaru's present situation. Until the gesture, though, Umaru, because of his determination to get education, didn't mind crawling to school. His grandmother wanted a wheelchair for him, and that dream has come true. Umaru is a child of few words, but his action clearly conveys his gratitude. Maybe in the future, he will gather courage to speak to the camera. George Kobna, Joy News.
Okay, we are done.
And that's most definitely a good one there. Business News is up next.
Hello there. So here's where we update you in the world of business. My name is Abigail Adomakoenchi. Now, after the Black Star line, we haven't really seen any shipping line that is local. And the executive chair of the African Independent Coastal Services, the only company running a Ghanaian flagged ship along the West African coastline, Stanley Aholu, is asking government to enforce the legislation which restricts coastal trading to Ghanaian-owned ships. He says the numerous foreign ships trading in the Ghanaian waters waters, apart from doing so illegally, are hindering the growth of the local shipping industry, adding that Ghana is losing huge revenues to these multinational shipping lines without an established domestic shipping industry. The domestic shipping industry is a very critical, crucial, essential tool needed for economic development. But unfortunately for Ghana, this industry has not really yielded much results. But the good news is that there are some companies that are coming up strongly, local companies. And one such company is the African Independence Coastal Services. It is the only company in Ghana and across West Africa that is giving feeder services, diverting cargoes from the road through the sea to other ports across the West African coastline. Now, I would want to find out, in such an industry that is not well established and as a company that is fighting against all kinds of competition, the stifling, how are they making it, and how does government support these companies to really come up and contribute immensely to the economy?
The fact of the matter is that we are working within a context. There isn't an existence of a domestic shipping industry. Ghana doesn't have a domestic shipping industry, even though there are certain laws on the books aimed at facilitating the growth of the development and growth of a domestic shipping industry. We haven't seen that for decades, since the Black Star Line ships and Nkrumah's Black Star Line ships. We haven't seen that. So we found ourselves chartering a new path and trying to do business as an avant-garde entity. It's in itself a difficulty.
We don't really have an established domestic shipping industry, and not having that and you setting the pace, what are the benefits in there for us, and what are we losing as an economy without this particular industry in place?
Well, Ghana is losing a lot of money. We're an import-dependent country. All we consume comes in from outside, from Europe, from Asia, name it. 90% of that, the transportation of that import into our country is done by sea. And I think it's even more than 90%. We could even peg it at 95% of our international trade is seaborne. And therefore, you can immediately see that if you don't control the transportation of that, you're losing money, not only in terms of the purchase of the imports, but also the transportation of freight of the imports. Now, so that's one aspect of it. And therefore, you're paying a disproportionate amount in terms of freight relative to other countries that own their own fleet. Even transportation that should have been done by sea, because we have a wide coastline. Yeah. We could carry cargo between Tema and Takoradi. It's now being done by road. There's a pressure on the road. So the cost of that on your infrastructure, the cost of that on your environment, because if you're using trucks to carry cargo all the time between Tema and Takoradi, for example, or beyond Takoradi from Tema, the cost of that, not only in tangible terms as in money, which I've already explained, because you're losing that to multinational lines, but the cost of that on your infrastructure, on your environment, is something you cannot necessarily quantify.
As a pace setter in this particular industry that is not really established, I mean, what would you want to see in place?
The legislation is there restricting local trade, trade within Ghanaian waters to Ghanaian-owned ships, but the law has not been implemented as it should, and therefore you have multinational lines who are not Ghanaian-owned and Ghanaian flags still plying and doing Ghanaian trade. That's one aspect of it. If you go to South Africa presently, this legislation has been passed to encourage domestic shipping such that you don't pay any taxes for a period of time when you flag a vessel under South African flag. This is to encourage the domestic shipping industry. They saw the need for that, so tax incentives have been put in place to enable that. You could do all other things, like the government could assist also in supporting financially, putting financial instruments in place to support local entrepreneurs who want to go into domestic shipping, because the domestic shipping industry is important. You lose a lot of money not having one. Security-wise, if you don't control the transportation of your goods, That's the security problem.
Revenue mobilization is indeed a challenge for this economy. We're always running budget deficits and we do not have enough revenues to run this country. But the domestic shipping industry is another alternative in which we can accrue revenue for this country. Quite clearly, we are losing a lot of money due to the non-existence of this particular industry. And for industry players, as you heard, they need the support of government to be able to be established in this economy that is quite competitive, and to, of course, take away cargoes or trucks that cause congestion and traffic on our roads through the seas, and then generate more revenue for the country. Well, now the news. Ghana and Burkina Faso have signed a pact to ensure the 225 kV Bolgatanga to Ouagadougou interconnection project is completed by April 2016. The $110 million project, which has delayed for about 4 years, will boost the transmission of power in Ghana and see the export of up to 100 megawatts of electricity to Burkina Faso upon completion.
Countries made the resolution at the first ministerial consultative meeting aimed at reviewing the status of the 225 kV Bolgatanga-Ouagadougou interconnection project, a key component of the West Africa Power Pool project. The project, which has stalled since 2010, will see the construction of a 210-kilometer transmission line from Bolgatanga to Ouagadougou with 170-kilometer line in Burkina Faso and a 40-kilometer line in Ghana once it commences.
There were some few issues that needed to be, cross-conditionalities that needed to be sorted out, and this took us quite some time. The funding agencies, for instance, wanted us to make sure that we have a power purchase agreement in place, and a long-term one. And this meant that, looking at our power supply situation, we need to be sure that every commitment that is made is properly crafted. So these negotiations took some time. But now all these issues are resolved, the loans are effective, so disbursement indeed can start.
Ghana is, however, committed to fulfilling its part of the WAP priority project. Emmanuel Amabua also assured Ghanaians government is working assiduously to fix the current power crisis. Ghana and Burkina Faso will meanwhile meet in August to have another review of the Bolgatanga-Ouagadougou interconnection project to ensure the project is not further delayed.
Ghana is implementing its section of the West Africa Power Pool priority projects. I know that in 2011, the 219-kilometer 330 kV Abuazi water transmission line, the new 330 kV substations in Abuazi and Tema, as well as associated 161 kV substation works for the interconnection of the new 330 kV facilities with the existing 161 kV systems were completed. It is equally worth noting that construction of the Ghana section of the Ghana-Togo-Benin interconnection, known as the 330 kV Volta-Tonu transmission line to link Ghana and Togo-Benin, is over 90% completed and expected to be completed by the second quarter of 2014.
Ghana and Burkina Faso will meanwhile meet in August to have another review of the book.
And that's it for business. My name is Abigail Adumakwentri. Sports is up next.
We all know
this document will be the basic guide and source
of the formulation of a curriculum instruments for the training and education of community coaches at the National Sports College, Winneba. It will also serve as standards, expectations, and code of conduct, especially for people working with young people in sports in our communities. Even as I speak, I can hint that a curriculum development project is already underway, sponsored by the Sports College and UK Sport. And I believe at the appropriate time, the British Council will also chip in some more support. We are always asking for more, Oliver Twist. Madam Chair, the reason for prioritizing the community coach is that most of the time, the focus of coaching and coach development has been on elite and competitive coaching. The question one may ask is, what about the young people and the not so able-bodied who may not aim at competition, but also have a right to sport and play in safe and quality conditions for health, fitness, and for fun?
All right, so that was the Minister for Youth and Sports talking about the community and education, document that has been launched to ensure that we get some more coaches in the rural areas as well as local areas. So very, very important, that particular initiative by the Ministry of Sport and the National Sports Authority that will be taking place at the National Sports College in Winneba. We can talk some cricket now. The Boston Cricket Club based in the UK has donated a set of cricket equipment to the amateur TEF Cricket Academy based in Achimota. The donation over the weekend followed the request by the President of the Cricket Academy, Frank Yaukwesi, months ago to the UK club. Dr. Andrew Boy is the Boston Cricket Club. He's actually the president of the Boston Cricket Club, who facilitated the donation and spoke to Joy Sports about his motivation.
Passionate association with cricket. I'm one of them. And I heard of your need last year for equipment, basics actually, that makes the game enjoyable to play. And I have a son who is also passionate about this game, and this game has actually created a great deal of opportunities for him. He's fortunate to be in a country where the game is admired and fully sponsored and supported. As a matter of fact, he is actually due to go on a tour to Barbados this summer playing cricket, and I hope and wish the same opportunity for all of you here. I hope I live to see the day when such an opportunity will avail itself to you. But before you get to that stage, you've got to master the game. You've got to master the discipline that the game also affords you.
Right, a number of games are currently ongoing in the various European leagues. Just to give you an idea of what's happening with festival start in England, Manchester United fans sadly not happy because of what's happening at the moment. But I have to say, the Chelsea fans and Liverpool fans are actually right behind them, and they're hoping that they'll win for selfish reasons, I have to say. There you have it. Arsenal are losing to Swansea City by 1-0. Wilfred Bondy getting the goal there for Arsenal in this one. So Arsenal need to back up. Remember, they lost by 6-0 to Chelsea. They have to do well out there. And of course, Manchester United are losing to Manchester City by 1-0. Edin Dzeko getting the goal there for Manchester City right there. And then we can talk about Newcastle, who are also losing to Everton by 1-0. Barkley getting the goal in there for that. We can talk about the Spanish Liga. 2 games currently ongoing there for you. We'll try and put that together. Malaga in action. And then in the Italian Serie A, it's Roma up against Torino, and Roma leading that game by 1-0. We'll quickly touch base with the German Bundesliga as well, because there is Schalke playing against Borussia Dortmund as well in the German Bundesliga. So we'll look at that very quickly as we just step it up. In the Spanish League as well, Espanyol leading Malaga by 2-1. There you have it on your screen as well. And then goals scored by Pablo Javier, as well as Sergio Garcia, scoring and doing the work for them as well. We'll end that with what's happening in the Bundesliga as well. And there you have it, Borussia Dortmund drawing goalless with Schalke 04. Brice White are losing, actually winning against Mainz by 3-1. So surprising for Mainz in that particular one. Bayern Munich leading Hertha Berlin by 3-1. That means that Bayern Munich can go all the way and wrap the Bundesliga right now. In terms of the number of games left, that's a record for Bayern Munich. Ending sports tonight. Israel will join us with some more. You have a good night.
cocktail competition has been organized to recognize some very talented bartenders in Ghana, as well as award Accra's Master Bartender 2014.
The bartending profession was generally a second occupation or transitional work for students, mostly in the Western countries, to gain knowledge on customer service. This, however, seems to be changing around the world, and bartending is becoming a profession by choice rather than necessity. And now, competitions are even springing up to crown good bartenders with the title Best Bartender. On Monday, top bartenders gathered at Movenpick Hotel to select the best bartender from among some 5 finalists who stood out from over 100 bartenders who entered the competition from across Accra. The 5 finalists competed in an exciting showdown using the finest line of spirits to exhibit their various talents. At the end of the competition, Felix Ajay from the View Bar was the last man standing.
Let's give Felix a round of applause.
Taking home the grand prize of $1,000 an NBA branded iPad mini loaded with cocktail apps, as well as a Master Bartender Academy cocktail set. He shared his excitement with us.
It's a mixed feeling. I'm not feeling too well, and I had to win, and it's kind of joy, and I can't really explain what I'm feeling now.
Some of the contestants also share the experience of the competition with us.
I was first a normal bartender, but at a point in time, I had this feeling to go higher and higher and higher. And I was encouraged by a friend to just keep going, not to give up. And that's what took me there.
And my first thing I had in me was to be a cocktail barman. But it went for a while, being a bar back, coming forth, being a manager and turning into a cocktail barman. I had a feeling I can go far.
The Master Bartender Academy is targeting aspiring bartenders, train and inspire them to be the best in their profession.
The Minister of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, Elizabeth Osei Asare, has appealed to the private sector to join forces with government to build bigger capacity entertainment venues in Ghana.
It's been over a year since Ghana's biggest showbiz center, the dome of the Accra International Conference Center, was closed down for major renovation works and facelift. The closure, which was scheduled to last for 10 months from February last year, has really contributed to price hikes in event tickets. As after having enjoyed such a bigger space, like an estimated number of over 4,000 seating, going to smaller centers meant higher charges. In the face of these difficulties, Minister of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, Elizabeth Osei Asare, has urged the private sector to help government build bigger capacity venues in the country. According to her, government is doing its part by putting up a facility in Kumasi, which is going to seat about 3,000 people. The minister was speaking to MyJoyOnline.com after the outdooring of a 600-seater multipurpose conferencing and entertainment center at the Labadi Beach Hotel. The venue, according to the management of the hotel, is an ideal venue for business meetings, residential conferences, presentations, fashion shows, cocktails, dinners, and wedding receptions. Well, this sounds like good news to the entertainment industry.
And that'll be all for showbiz. But on a programming note, is there a correlation between age, competence and the quality of leadership? This question has become rather relevant after the 2012 presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Nana Akufo-Addo, who will be 70 in a few months, announced his intention to contest the flag bearership again. But is age really relevant in the scheme of things? Dr. Theophilus Richardson, a political scientist, development economist, joins Nana and Sakwa to do justice to the matter at 9 p.m. on PM Express. On phone will be Dr. Arthur Kennedy, author of Chasing the Elephant into the Bush. Stay tuned and share your thoughts.
Showbiz.
That'll be all for the bulletin. Before I go, the quick run through our top stories. The Electoral Commission chairman is proposing a review of the no verification, no vote clause ahead of the 2016 elections. The chief executive of the Komfanuchi Teaching Hospital has been asked to proceed on leave over his role in the Sueba missing baby saga. Ghana Post officials have told the Judgment Debt Commission how massive corruption and mismanagement brought the company to its knees. The Roads and Highways Minister proposes Saint-Chi ferry passengers be charged a token after overloading is blamed for weekend breakdown. And 6-year-old so determined to get an education he crossed to school, giving a wheelchair after his story was aired. That'll be all for the bulletin. My name is Israel. Have a good evening.